Hello, this is Virtuals, the chess noob, learning and having fun with chess. Those of you who follow my channel will know that my single most favourite opening in chess is the Vienna game and the Vienna Gambit. And on this channel I've covered how to play the Vienna Gambit, what to do if you face against the Vienna Gambit with the black pieces entering the main line, and then very recently I covered on how you might even punish white for daring play the Vienna Gambit against us by entering into the Bardeleben Variation. So given that I am a Vienna Gambit fan, what should we do if we face against the main line and the Bardeleben Variation? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you a particular approach which I think is pretty good. So my opponent for this match was the nutjob, fellow Aussie, and we're both Vienna game fanatics. So I knew from this match that we were going to enter the main line. So e4, e5, knight c3, Vienna of course, and they play the fork b because when you're playing black, you can try to draw the player in white into the Vienna game main line because it's actually good for black. So, as always, I always play the Vienna Gambit if I have the opportunity, f4, and now the main line, d5. So, only one good move here. Captures, attacking the knight, knight captures that pawn back, infiltrating into my space, and for white, it is now the Paulsen attack with queen to f3. So this position is very good for white if black doesn't know what they're doing. Because white has lots of attacking chances. However, for the wily player with black, particularly if they're a Vienna game fanatic as well, they would know that the best move here is f5, the Bardeleben Variation. Here, it is tricky to play with white. Now, the move I played in this game is d4. This is the Heyde Variation. Now you will see that the best move according to Stockfish is d3. And this is the best move for white. This is where white has the best evaluation. But as I showed you in the last couple of games of the Bardeleben Variation where I played black, this can get pretty difficult for white because knight captures knight, you're going to have to take back. The pawn side structure on the queen is now damaged. Black now jams their pawn forward. And if you take, now queen takes, and the queen has a fork of the pawn on e5 and the rook. You're forced to move your rook out of the way. And now the queen takes the e5 pawn. Black's taken control of the center. Your king, is rather exposed. And look at this dark square diagonal. These diagonals are open. It's not happy days. It's difficult to play with white. And pretty much you're almost guaranteed that you may damage your queenside structure because knight captures knight, you're going to have to take back. And it's just difficult to play. So let's go back. Now, technically, that position was still potentially quite okay for white, to be honest. So here, because this pawn is a bit loose, and when we think about it, this is a passed pawn. So this pawn is on d5, this pawn is on f5, this pawn is a passed pawn. We want to protect it and we want to hold on to that center. So rather than, attacking the knight, what we do is d4, immediately bolstering our center, defending our e5 pawn, and more than that, it disallows black from pushing their pawn forward to d4 themselves. If they choose to take, we always have the option of capturing back with the queen, and we don't damage our queenside pawn structure. So here, it actually makes a lot of sense. And I think one of the things about the Heyde variation is that it's relatively easier to play. Now, my friend here didn't know the theory here at all, and so they played a perfectly sensible looking move, developing the knight, which also, attacks some of these pieces here as well. However, that is a little bit suboptimal, and in fact, the position is now completely fine for white. It's 0-0-0, I believe, at high depth. you will see that Stockfish thinks that that more quiet bishop to e7 move is most optimal. And the logic here is that in the Vienna Gambit type lines, the sort of move or the loss of the f pawn means that this dark square diagonal to the king is open. And that's potentially risky when we've got two pieces potentially here and they've already infiltrated with the knight. So what we need to do first is that we need to provide an extra defender for that square here. And so the optimal move is to play knight ge2. Let's say black here now opts to short castles. Presumably that was some of the logic there. And here we now develop our bishop to e4 and we long castles. And look what's happened. Our pawn structure is fine. We have some control of the center. We move our king rapidly out of the way to this sort of scariness. You know, their pieces are attacking down the king side. We're going to castle queen side. Happy days. We're potentially completely okay, and it's not difficult to play. And we continue with a good game of chess. Now, in this game, my opponent against the Heyde Variation, Heyde Variation, decided to play the knight. And now we have an opportunity to immediately pin that knight to the king. So we get to pin with development. They tried to unpin, and have a look at this pawn. At the moment, only defended by that bishop. So let's capture. Let's take. They take back because they didn't want to damage their pawn structure. And this pawn is now hanging. Now, we can't take right away because remember this dark square diagonal? So this dark square diagonal is still very problematic. And the queen no longer provides a defense here if it goes capturing that pawn. So the first thing we need to do is, again, knight ge2, defending that square, also sort of bolstering that knight as well. Looks like black wants to castle queenside, and so here they move their queen, possibly not to the best square, because if the king ends up on that square, there is a potential pin. Here I short castles, and black long castles, misses the fact that that is in fact hanging. So now I've got queen captures pawn, pinning the queen to the king, forcing a queen trade, and at the end of that transformation, I have won a pawn. And I'm doing very well. In fact, at this point, I am +1. They try to attack. I decide to infiltrate. Now, that wasn't the best move because black can just basically kick, I think, the knight the next turn, but let's see what happens. They decide to do a backwards knight move, attacking the rook, missing that dark square diagonal. One move blunder, takes, and pretty much the game is over now. So look at this, +7, +8. And basically now I just play conservatively, and it's about cleanup, mopping things up, move towards an endgame. So attack, battery, they push, that's fine. Let's advance another piece into the attack. That was a good try, but I now can take with defense. They take that piece. I can take with an attack. But now I also have a very, very nice fork. So they take, I take back. And here, discovered, check. So I capture the bishop as well. There we go. Check. Let's bring the bishop all the way back. And in this position, I can now force trade that rook if they're not careful. There we go. What are they going to do? Let's trade, try to move. Now it has nowhere left to go. Captures, captures, and here my sad froggy friend opted to resign. Good game, GG. My big takeaway from this game is to try the Heyde Variation when you have the white pieces and you're facing against the Bardeleben Variation of the Vienna Game Main Line. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.